Have you ever wanted to turn a simple character idea into a fully rigged and animated 3D model in Unity? With AI tools like ChatGPT, Midjourney, 3D AI Studio, Mixamo, and AccuRig, it's easier than you might think. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I went from a single prompt to the character you're seeing on screen right now. Let's get started. So first off, we're going to start here in ChatGPT, and what I've actually done is I've created a custom GPT to help me generate prompts for Midjourney that are optimized for character models that can be rigged and pulled into 3D scenes. So here's the full prompt, and I will post the link for this in the description so you can grab it and use it yourself if you'd like to. So I'm going to go ahead and hit close here, and then I'm going to go back and start a new chat with this custom GPT. So what we're working on here is kind of a stylized sort of mystical hero. I watched this very old movie when I was a kid called Kroll, and the main character's name was Colwyn. So I don't know if ChatGPT knows who that is, but I just decided to put it in here and see what it could come up with. So I'm going to say, could you create a prompt for a mystical hero inspired by the character Colwyn from the 1983 movie Kroll? And what we're going to do is grab this prompt here, copy it, and then head over to Midjourney and paste it. I've found Midjourney to be a really nice way to kind of get a visual idea of a character, so I didn't like the ones that it gave the first go around, so I asked it for a more cinematic variant. And you can go back and forth with ChatGPT on this as much as you want. Sometimes I'll go through maybe a dozen or more iterations until I find the character model that I like, just something that kind of stands out. So now that that's complete, I like the look of the guy on the left, so he might look familiar. So we're going to go ahead and download that image, and then hop over here to 3D AI Studio. Now 3D AI Studio has this image to 3D functionality that we're going to use, and they just recently released this Prism model. So I'm going to give that a try. For the face limit, I'm going to go for around 50,000 or so. You don't need to put in a value here. You can just leave it empty if you want it to figure out this by yourself. But we're going for a hero character here, so I want details up as high as possible. So we're going for detailed texture, detailed geometry, and we'll click generate and let that go. So that takes a few minutes, but once we get in, you can take a look here. And what I did is I clicked on the texture paint. So typically what I'll do after I get the model created is go into the texture painter here and kind of brush up the character model a little bit. So what you want to kind of focus on here is cleaning up any little imperfections, anything that looks a little bit out of place. And unfortunately, as you do this, you'll see you get little white streaks on the edges of the geometry, so I tend to kind of clean those up towards the end. I'll make the brush very small. Just make sure there aren't any major white pieces or anything that looks kind of out of place sticking out in the model. I only spent a few minutes on this. Obviously you could spend a lot longer if you really wanted to, but we're just kind of going for a demo here, so I just wanted to make it look half decent for this. So once you're happy with that, you click save, and then you can go ahead and download the model. Now one of the things about 3D AI Studio is that by default it's going to create a GLB, and GLBs they import okay to Unity, but the problem is the rigging tools that we use. I'm going to show you Mixamo and AccuRig here. Both of them expect an FBX file. So what I'm going to do is actually use Blender to import the GLB file, and then we're going to want to go ahead and export it as an FBX file. So the first part of that is to do File Export, choose FBX format, and then you want to make sure that on the right hand side here, as soon as I type the name in here, you'll see there's an option to limit to selected objects. So we only want that selected object that you can see in the hierarchy in the top right. Now the other thing we want to do is export the textures too. So I'm going to go to File, External Data, and choose Pack Resources. And then the next thing I'm going to do is save the Blender project in the same directory. So I'll just go ahead and name that again, and then click Save. And then I want to go to File, External Data again, and choose Unpack Resources. And what this will do is it'll save out that PNG file for the texture for the material that we're going to need for our character model. So once we have that, you'll see there's a Textures folder with the image in it, and the FBX as well. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to use Mixamo to rig the model for us. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that FBX file, and you can see he's turned a little bit. I want to get him turned so he's kind of facing the camera like that. Oops, wrong axis. Rotate on the y-axis. There we go. So we want him facing forward so we can line up these markers for the tool to do the auto rigging for us. So we'll get these in place, and once I have those in the spot that I need them to be, we can go ahead and click next and let Mixamo do its thing. Okay, so there he is. He's already moving around and animated. So there we go. Within just a few minutes, we've gone from a prompt to a fully rigged, working player model here. So we'll go ahead and maybe search for an idle animation just to give him some kind of default state. So that one looks all right. Let's go with that one. I'm just gonna click and load it and see how it looks here. Okay. Typically when I do this, I'll kind of zoom in and take a look just to make sure his fingers are looking okay, make sure there's no distortion on any of the geometry or anything like that. So he's looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and download that. So what that will give you is an FBX file again, but the FBX file will have rigging in it, which tells tools like Unity and others when it goes to animate how to move it around. All right, so now let's create a new Unity project. As you can see here, I'm on Unity 6.2, so I'm just going to go ahead and choose Universal 3D, the URP pipeline, and just name my project hero character and click Create Project. And once that loads, we'll have a scene ready to go. In the meantime, let's do another rigging, this time with a tool called AccuRig. Now this is a desktop application, and it works similarly to Mixamo, but gives you a little bit more fine control. So I, again, imported the desktop. I'm going to click Force Symmetry here, and then click Rig Body. And it has different marker points than Mixamo does. You'll see here the joint markers are in a little bit of a different spot. But I'm going to move these around, adjust them a little bit. It kind of gives you a nice little diagram up there in the top right in terms of where these things are actually supposed to go. So I found AccuRig to be a little bit more precise and granular than the Mixamo rigs at times. Mixamo is kind of the standard out there right now, but both of them work in Unity. I haven't had any major issues with either of them. I just wanted to show you both of these options just to kind of give you an idea of some of the tools out there. So I'm just kind of lining up his markers here on the different joints and things like that. These don't have to be exactly perfect. It's just giving the tool kind of an idea and a marker about where the different skeletal parts to the mesh are. And then I'm going to click Rig Hands, and this was actually pretty amazing. This model, it managed to get perfectly on the hands. You can see that pinky's a little distorted, but that's actually okay because the fact that it knows where those mesh markers are, you can see it actually kind of straightens it out once we get the rigging in place. So there's a little preview of how he looks, and if you like what you see, you can then just click that Add Motions button in the bottom right to export it. So we'll go ahead and click Export, and again this will export it as an FBX. It actually gives you a target application, so we're going to want to choose Unity here, and we can just include the character only. We don't need the motions in this case because the rigging will come fully within the mesh there. So I'm going to click Export again and save this FBX file out, and I will pull both of these into Unity here in a minute just to show you kind of how to wire both AccuRig and Mixamo animations up, depending on which you prefer. Okay, I'm back over in our Unity project here. Created a player folder in the project tray here, and we've got a couple of these different FBXs. So this one here's the Mixamo one, and then we have the AccuRig one as well that we just saved out that we'll pull in as well. So I'm going to drag both of these in here, and once we drag the FBXs in, we're also going to need that textures folder, like I mentioned earlier, that has the PNG file with the texture that we want to add to our material. So in order to get the material to work right, you need to select the material inside the FBX and hit Ctrl D. That will duplicate the material out so you can customize it. And then we just want to go ahead and drag that PNG file into the base map of the material. I always drag down the smoothness too. If you have that too high, the character will look kind of shiny, almost metallic-like, so we don't want that. So once that looks good, we will go over to here to materials and drag that material in on the character rig. And let's drag our guy into the scene and see how he looks. Zoom in here a bit, and there we go. Sure enough, we've got a pretty cool looking hero character running inside of Unity. So I'm going to go ahead and rename the animation, the idle animation that came with it, to idle 1. When you export from Mixamo, it always names it mixamo.com for some reason. So I like to rename that just so I know what I'm working with there. I'm going to go ahead and run the scene here real quick just to see what he looks like, and you'll notice he's not animated yet, so we are missing an animator controller. One way to create an animator controller really quickly inside of Mixamo is I'm going to hit Control D again and duplicate that idle animation. You can just drag it right onto the model, and that will create you an animator controller and automatically assign it to your model in the hierarchy. So that pretty much just said to Unity, I want this animation to be the default animation for this character. So you can see he's animated now, but the one problem is he's not looping. So we can go back to the animation and check loop time, loop pose, and now he will loop that animation over and over again indefinitely. So our guy's starting to look a little bit more lifelike here. We've got a basic idle animation going. So let's do that for our AccuRig model as well. So you'll see I did the same thing. I can assign this exact same material because it's the same mesh, and we'll pull our AccuRig guy in here. Now you'll notice he's defaulted to the T-pose. The actual skeletal structure itself for AccuRig is a little different than Mixamo, but we should be able to use the same animator controller. So I've got the AccuRig model selected right now, and what I'm going to need to do is click Add Component and choose Animator. This is what Unity did automatically for us when we dragged the animation, so I'm going to add that controller there and click play, and let's see what we got. So it's not animating yet. So this is the difference between AccuRig and Mixamo. So what we're going to need to do is select the model and then choose the rig tab here, and you see how the animation type is set to generic right now? For the AccuRig one, we're going to actually want to switch that to humanoid. And when you click apply here, it actually creates an avatar as well, so we're going to want to set that avatar to our character here. The last thing we're going to do is select that Mixamo one that we imported originally and also change that one to humanoid. This will make the humanoid bones apply to the idle animation that we have inside of it. So I'm going to go ahead and name this one idle 2. And then go ahead and make sure you check that loop time on the animation again. And I'm actually going to duplicate the animator controller as well, just so we have a copy of each for each one of our characters here. And then I'm going to choose idle 2 as his idle state, the animation that we just created. And then we'll go back to our AccuRig guy and switch that to the AccuRig version of the animator controller that we just made with the idle 2 animation. Go ahead and just rename this so we know what we're dealing with here. And again, I'm showing you both of these in case you don't want to deal with downloading AccuRig, you want to use Mixamo instead. But there you go. We've got both animations running, one with AccuRig and one with Mixamo. Now for the rest of this tutorial, we're going to stick with the AccuRig model that we put together, but you can certainly work with the Mixamo one if you want to. And now what we're going to do is install our character controller. This is a free package on Unity. It's called Character Controller Super. I already have it installed. If you don't have it installed yet, you can just go to the Unity Asset Store and grab it yourself. And so I'm going to click that and click Import into our project and get that in there. And you can click yes. This is an older project, so it does need to be updated for Unity 6.2, but it works just fine. We also want to make sure we have a terrain in our scene here, so we have something to walk on. And what I'll do is I'm going to go to the prefabs inside the demo assets. And one of the things that Super Character Controller provides us is a demo character object to kind of show you how to set up the hierarchy in your scene here. So you can see I deleted the main camera and set the character camera to be the main camera. And just as a test, let's have the default guy run around. You'll see he's pink. That's because it was built for the built-in pipeline, and we're using the URP pipeline. But that's okay, because we're going to delete that character out of the hierarchy and replace it with our hero rig here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that AccuRig model in there, like I said. And you can just go ahead and delete the character model that came with the prefab. And then I'm going to switch this to the character animator that came with the demo here. So a couple other things. I want to make sure that the third-person animator is set to our Colwyn AccuRig animator here. This will tell character controller which animator to actually use when it's wiring up the inputs and things like that. And so the next thing you'll want to do is choose your character model there and just make sure the position is set to 0, 0, 0. That way he's perfectly aligned. And we'll go ahead and click play and see how he looks. Uh-oh, he's not animating. Well, there's definitely a problem with the setup here. And what that is actually is the fact that these prefabs that come with Super Character Controller are built for generic rigs. They're not built for the humanoid rig that we have set up on our character here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate the character animator that came with the demo there. And I'm going to go ahead and open that guy up. And what we need are some animations that actually work with our rig. So right now you can see this idle animation that came with the Super Character Controller is set here. This is not going to be compatible with the rigging that we just put together. So what I'm going to do is install the, it's called Kevin Iglesias' Human Basic Motions Free pack. And this has a whole bunch of different animations, walking, running, jumping, things like that. Now these animations are going to be much better compatibility wise with our character. So I'm going to rename this to our Colin Character Animator Controller. And so what we want to do here is for all of our states, instead of using those prefab ones from Super Character Controller, we're going to use the ones from that free animation pack. So see, I'm choosing human male idle 1. I'm choosing human male walking here. So we want to make sure that we're using animations that work right for this. And obviously there are a lot of great places out there to find different animations. You don't have to use these ones, but I've just found them to be the most convenient in terms of working right for this setup. So I've chosen idle, walking, running. We also want to choose for jumping, for the airborne state, we want to choose a jumping animation. And I think that's going to be it for now. We're not going to implement character sliding for the moment. So I'm going to make a couple of tweaks to the character controller here itself. But first we want to make sure that we have that new animator controller that we just created set on our character model. And so let's go ahead and run the scene again and see how we're looking. Okay, that looks a lot better. He's idling, he's walking around. Now you'll notice he looks like he's kind of sliding around on the terrain a little bit. That just, the speed doesn't quite match with the animation. So what I'm going to do here is tweak a couple of things. I'm going to crank up the mass sensitivity a little bit. I'm also going to tone down the walking speed quite a bit. I'm going to put it to about 100. And that should hopefully line up a little bit better with the walking animation that we have it set to. So let's take a look and see. Okay, that looks a lot better. So he's not sliding around on the terrain as much, he's just kind of walking around. That's kind of what we're looking for there. Okay. So this next part's the fun part. Let's implement a way to actually have him attack with the left mouse button. So for this, I'm going to hop over and use Codex CLI. You can use Codex, you can use Gemini CLI Pro. I have a video out there if you're curious on how to install and set up some of these tools, so be sure to check that out. But I'm basically prompting Codex here saying, hey, I'm using Character Controller Super for animating the character movement, and I'd like you to modify the character controller to add an attack animation state. So character controller comes with things like jump and slide and things like that. Basically, all I'm telling Codex to do is I want to be able to use the left mouse button to actually swing and attack with my character. So we'll go ahead and put this prompt in and let Codex do its thing. And once it's finished, you can see attack input now routes through the controller and drives a configured animator trigger. So it gives you a couple of instructions here. First of all, you want to make sure that you have it enabled. So I'm going to select the character model here again and just check on Super Character Controller. Let's see where it actually added it. Now you can see in the animator setup here, there's an attack trigger now. So this is going to be the name of the parameter that actually dictates what plays the attack animation. So we'll call it attacking, and then we want to go back to our animator controller here. And before I do this, I'm actually going to create a new layer here. And the reason for this is because when our character's moving around, I want his feet to keep on moving, but I also want him to be able to swing his sword. So this Kevin Iglesias actually comes with these masks. So you can see I'm choosing the human body upper mask, and what this says is when you're playing an animation on this layer, only play it on a certain part of the body. So in this case, we just want his upper body animation to play. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add a attack state in our top layer here, and use the attack right hand or attack left hand, it looks like. And we're going to want to make a transition from any state over to the attack state, and then make another one from the attack state to the exit state. Now, a couple of things you want to do here. Make sure, see how I'm dragging this here, just to make sure that it begins playing immediately. And then we want to choose the attacking trigger. And you can see a little preview down there. I actually did not want to choose the left attack. I wanted to choose the right hand attack. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that right now. And we'll go ahead and play that again here real quick. That's what we're looking for. So it's sort of like a sword swing, right? And one thing I missed here is, see how I clicked on that layer? You want to drag the weight up to 1. If it's at 0, it's not going to play at all. So make sure that you do that when you add the layer. I'm just going to clean up some things here. I don't want any transition duration at all for these states. I want the animation to play immediately, and then you can change the interruption source to current state. That'll force it from whatever state he's actually in to play the attack animation. So here we go. I'm clicking the mouse button, and sure enough, he's swinging away. He doesn't have a sword though. There's something missing here, so we can't finish this without giving him a sword. So again, what I did here is I created a prompt for a really cool looking stylized one-handed sword, maybe in the style of like a Final Fantasy type of sword, something like that. I found this one, I like the look of it, so back to 3D AI Studio, let's have it create us a sword for us. And for this one, I'm just going to choose standard on the texture and geometry quality. It's just a sword, it doesn't need to be like a hero character. Face limit, I'm going to set that to auto. And then I'm going to try out this smart low poly option here. This kind of optimizes it a little bit. Not 100% necessary, but for smaller pieces of geometry like weapons and such, it doesn't hurt to check this, just to get fewer faces. So I'm going to click Smart Low Poly and click Generate, and let's see what it can come up with. All right, so here we go. I really like the look of this model. I think it looks perfect for our guy. So we'll go ahead and download the 3D model, and this is also going to be a GLB file. However, we don't need to convert this to FBX since we're not really doing any direct animation with it. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it in. Now you'll notice that the sword model there is a white document icon. This is because we're missing the GLB importer. So I'm going to go to the packages and install built-in com.unity.cloud.gltfast. This will actually tell Unity, the project we're in, how to properly import GLB files. So Once you have that installed, that should show up right. And then what I'm going to do here is I've got the the sword into the scene, but what we need to do actually is we need to make this part of the skeleton of our guy here so it actually moves with his hand. So I'm expanding it out and I'm trying to find, there's his right arm, there's his hand. So I want the sword to be a child of his hand so that it moves whenever his hand moves. And then the next thing I'll go ahead and do is just kind of move this around, rotate it a little bit, get it into position so it looks decent. And there you have it. We've got a fully animated, rigged, playable character here with a sword. You can run around and slash it. I hope you found this helpful. If you've gotten through the tutorial and made something yourself, I'd love to see what you came up with. Feel free to share it. Post comments, questions down below, and appreciate you getting through it if you made it this far. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.